I decided to take a holiday to the countryside, away from work and the busy city. The drive was peaceful and I felt more relaxed than I had in a long time. As the sun began to set, I figured I should find a place to stay for the night. I spotted a sign for a bed and breakfast and decided to give it a try. I turned down a narrow, tree-lined road that seemed to lead deeper into the countryside. After a few minutes, I arrived at an old, charming farmhouse with a sign that read, "Welcome to Maplewood Inn." It looked cozy and inviting, so I decided to stay the night. I got out of the car, grabbed my bag, and walked to the front door. The air was cool, and the sounds of nature surrounded me. It felt like the perfect getaway. I rang the doorbell, and an elderly woman with a warm smile greeted me. "Welcome to Maplewood Inn," she said. "We don't get many visitors these days. Come in, come in." I followed her inside, the cozy interior filled with antique furniture and a crackling fireplace. It felt like stepping back in time. The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Maplewood, showed me to my room. My room was quaint, with a large, comfortable bed and a window overlooking the garden. Mrs. Maplewood told me dinner would be ready soon and left me to settle in. I freshened up and headed downstairs to the dining room, where a hearty meal was laid out. I was the only guest, which I found a bit odd, but I didn't think much of it. I enjoyed the meal and chatted with Mrs. Maplewood, who shared stories about the inn's history. She seemed sweet and kind, but there was something about her that made me feel uneasy. After dinner, I headed back to my room feeling drowsy. The bed was so comfortable and I quickly fell into a deep sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night to strange noises coming from downstairs. It sounded like whispers and footsteps. My heart started to race. I got out of bed and slowly made my way downstairs. The house was eerily silent except for the occasional creak of the old floorboards. I reached the bottom of the stairs and saw a faint light coming from under the door of the basement. I felt a chill run down my spine. I cautiously opened the basement door and peered inside. I saw a flickering candle and shadows moving on the walls. I could hear the whispers more clearly now. I stepped into the basement, my heart pounding. Mrs. Maplewood and other shadowy figures were standing around a table, chanting softly. On the table was an old, dusty book, and the atmosphere felt heavy and oppressive. I accidentally made a noise, and all heads turned towards me. Mrs. Maplewood's warm smile was gone, replaced by a cold, sinister expression. "You shouldn't be here," she said in a voice that sent chills down my spine. I backed away slowly, then turned and ran up the stairs. I could hear the figures following close behind, their footsteps echoing in the dark. I grabbed my keys, jumped into my car, and started the engine. I didn't look back as I sped away from the inn, my heart racing and my mind reeling from what I had seen. I drove down the dark, empty road, the inn disappearing into the distance. I don't know what I stumbled upon that night, but I knew one thing. I would never return to Maplewood Inn again. Thank you for watching. Stay safe and be cautious when exploring the countryside.